There is a place on this earth where the rules of the natural world do not apply the way you expect them to. A place where the canopy is so dense that sunlight never reaches the floor, where the river systems run for thousands of miles through terrain that has never been fully mapped, where scientists who venture in with cameras and equipment sometimes come back with footage they struggle to explain, and sometimes do not come back at all. This is the Amazon, not the version that appears in nature documentaries with bright colors and playful monkeys. The real Amazon, the one that covers over 5.5 million square kilometers of South America, harboring an estimated 10% of all species on Earth, the majority of which science has not yet named, described, or understood. What you are about to hear are 10 genuine discoveries made inside this forest. Each one unsettled the researchers who found it. Several of them remain unexplained, and a few of them suggest something about this forest that most scientists are not yet willing to say out loud. Number 10. The whale that should not exist. In February of 2019, a group of researchers following an unusual gathering of vultures deep in the jungle undergrowth of Marajfe Island, near the mouth of the Amazon River, found something that stopped them in their tracks: a humpback whale, dead, lying in the jungle floor surrounded by dense vegetation, approximately 50 feet from any body of water large enough to hold it. The animal weighed 10 tons. It measured 36 feet in length. It was a juvenile identified as a humpback by its distinctive skeletal structure, the same species that migrates through the Atlantic. The nearest ocean was not across a river or through a clearing. It was across a significant stretch of coastline that the animal would have had to travel over land to reach. The scientific community offered two primary explanations. The first was that powerful tidal forces, possibly associated with seasonal flooding, had carried the animal inland. The second was that the whale had been swept from coastal waters during an unusually violent storm event and deposited into the vegetation before the waters receded. Neither explanation fully accounted for the distance. Neither fully accounted for the condition of the carcass, which suggested the animal had not been dragged, but had simply arrived. The vultures had found it before the scientists did. How long it had been there before the vultures, no one could say with confidence. What unsettled the researchers most was not the whale itself. It was what the whale suggested about the relationship between this jungle and the ocean, about the kinds of events that can occur in this ecosystem without any human witness. The Amazon does not give easy answers, and this was not the last discovery that would prove that. Number 9. The river that boils deep in the central Peruvian Amazon. There is a river that should not exist. Its local name is Shanay Timpishka, translated from the indigenous Ashvaninka language. It means roughly boiled with the heat of the sun, but the sun has nothing to do with it. The river runs for nearly 4 miles through protected rainforest. At its widest, it stretches 80 feet across. At its deepest, the water reaches 16 feet. And from one end to the other, the river flows at temperatures approaching 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 93 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cook flesh, hot enough to kill anything that falls in within seconds. Animals do fall in. Researchers have documented it. A frog, displaced from the bank, surfaces moments later, motionless, its eyes white, its skin beginning to separate from the tissue beneath. For years, geologists assumed the heat must come from a volcanic source. The problem is there are no active volcanoes near this section of the Amazon. The nearest volcanic system is hundreds of miles away. The heat, according to current scientific understanding, rises through fault lines in the Earth's crust, carried upward by geothermal energy escaping from deep within the planet. What that means is that this river is being heated by the Earth itself, by forces operating at a depth we cannot observe and do not fully understand. The indigenous communities in the surrounding region have known about this river for generations. They have always described it as sacred, as alive, as something that belongs to a spirit older than the forest. Scientists documented it formally in 2011. They are still studying it, and the deeper they look, the less certain they become about what exactly they are dealing with. Number 8. The spider that hunts birds. Most people understand spiders to be small creatures that occupy corners, weave webs, and prey on insects small enough to become entangled. The Goliath bird-eater does not do any of those things. With a body measuring 5 inches in length and a leg span reaching 11 inches, this is the largest spider on Earth by mass. It lives in the deep rainforest of the Amazon basin, primarily in burrows dug into the ground, and it hunts at night. Not by web, by ambush. The animal pounces on its prey. It uses a pair of hollow inch-long fangs that function essentially as hypodermic needles, driving neurotoxin directly into the body of whatever it has caught. It can take birds, it takes mice, lizards, and frogs. It returns with its prey to its burrow, and there, through a process involving digestive enzymes, it liquefies the internal organs of the animal before consuming it. What makes this creature particularly difficult to avoid is its defensive system. Its eyesight is poor, but it possesses densely packed sensory hairs across its body that detect vibrations in the air and ground with extraordinary precision. When it senses a threat approaching, it does not retreat. It rubs its legs together, releasing a cloud of microscopic barbed hairs into the surrounding air. These hairs are designed to embed in skin, in mucous membranes, in eyes. A single female lays between 50 and 150 eggs at a time. There are parts of the Amazon where population counts of this species have not been conducted, where the numbers remain unknown, where the forest floor after dark is a place that researchers choose, very deliberately, not to walk. Number 7. The wasp that uses living hosts. In the Peruvian jungle, entomologists cataloging the insect diversity of the Amazon basin discovered a species that most of them wished they had not found. It was given the informal name, the vampire wasp. Just under an inch in length, it belongs to a parasitic family of wasps, known for a reproductive strategy that has been described in scientific literature as one of the most disturbing in the natural world. The female locates a host insect. She does not kill it. She stings it, extracting blood and internal fluid for nutrition in a manner that gives the species its name. And then, using a tube-like organ called an ovipositor, she deposits her eggs directly beneath the skin of the living host. The host continues to live. It continues to move. The eggs develop inside it. When the larvae hatch, they do not emerge immediately. They feed from the inside, on the living tissue of the host animal, carefully avoiding vital organs, extending the host's life for as long as the nutrients last. When the host finally dies, the juvenile wasps are fully developed. The discovery of this species added to a growing body of evidence that the Amazon operates according to biological rules that have no parallel elsewhere on Earth. Rules where the line between predator and prey is not drawn at the moment of death, where survival sometimes means something far more disturbing than escape. There were more species of this type still being catalogued at the time of writing. Researchers believed they had identified only a fraction of the parasitic wasp species present in the basin. That fraction alone was enough to change the way scientists thought about what this forest was capable of. Number 6. The leech that enters from within. In a remote research station in the Amazon basin, a medical team conducting routine health assessments on local livestock made a discovery that redefined for the scientists involved what the word parasitism actually meant. Inside the nasal cavity of a host animal, they found a leech. Not on the skin, not on an external surface inside. The species was subsequently named Tyrannobdella rex, the tyrant leech king. It grows to nearly 2 inches in length. It possesses teeth measuring over 8 millimeters, proportionally among the largest of any leech species known to science. It uses those teeth in a soaring motion to open wounds in internal tissue, then feeds on the blood that flows. The behavior that most disturbed the researchers was its method of entry. This leech does not wait for a host to approach water. It actively seeks entry through orifices, through nostrils, through the mouth, through any opening in the body of a warm-blooded host large enough to allow passage. The specimen found during the assessment was not the only one. There were others, The discovery prompted a review of similar findings in the region. Reports emerged from field researchers who had worked in the Amazon for decades, describing cases of unusual internal bleeding in livestock that had until then gone unexplained. The tyrant Leech King was classified and catalogued. Researchers noted that its range across the Amazon basin was not yet fully determined, that the environments it preferred, slow-moving water, humid undergrowth, the dense leaf litter of the forest floor, covered millions of square kilometers. They noted also that the species had been found not only in livestock. Up to this point, these discoveries felt like encounters with the strange and the extreme, isolated phenomena from a forest that has always produced the unexpected. But from here, the story takes a different direction, because what follows are not simply creatures with remarkable adaptations. What follows are discoveries that began to make scientists question the nature of this forest itself, its scale, its depth, and what it might be hiding. Number 5. The centipede that paralyzes. The Amazonian giant centipede reaches 12 inches in length. That sentence, read once, tends to produce a physical response. But the size of this animal is not the discovery that concerns scientists most. It is the architecture. The body of this centipede is composed of between 21 and 23 segments. Each segment carries its own pair of legs. At the front of the animal, the first pair of legs has been modified over millions of years of evolution into a pair of curved, hollow structures that function as precision venom delivery systems. They do not sting, they grip, they pierce, and through them the centipede administers a venom that induces full-body paralysis in prey animals within seconds. The feeding behavior is aggressive and fast. The centipede uses its speed, which is considerable for an animal of its size, to close the distance to prey before any escape response can be triggered. The venom does the rest. In the rare instances where a human being has been bitten, the effects have included chest pain, cardiac irregularities, severe nausea, and systemic fever lasting several days. There have been no confirmed fatalities in adults, though the scientific literature notes this with the kind of careful qualification that implies the absence of confirmed cases is not the same as the absence of risk. What concerns researchers is not the individual animal. It is the density. In certain sections of the Amazon basin, particularly in areas of deep rainforest where the soil is moist and the canopy is unbroken, population surveys of this species have returned numbers that surprised even veteran entomologists. The forest floor in those regions at night is a different environment than the one visible during the day, and what moves across it in numbers that science is still attempting to count has not been fully assessed. Number 4. The eel that rewrote the limits of electricity. For decades, the electric eel was considered one of the most remarkable animals in the natural world, a creature capable of generating electrical discharges of up to 650 volts, enough in repeated shocks to induce fatal cardiac and respiratory failure in a human being, enough to be treated in every survival manual that mentions the Amazon as a genuine lethal threat. In 2019, that understanding changed. Researchers working in the waterways of the Amazon basin identified what they initially believed to be a known subspecies. Genetic analysis revealed it was not. It was an entirely new species, Electrophorus voltae, named with a certain grim appropriateness, after Alessandro Volta, the pioneer of electrical science. This animal generates 860 volts. That figure represents the highest bioelectric discharge ever recorded in any living organism on Earth, 210 volts higher than the previous record holder, higher than the voltage used by electrical systems in most commercial buildings, higher than levels that, in laboratory testing of comparable electrical exposure, have produced outcomes that the research teams chose to describe in clinical rather than graphic terms. The animal reaches 6.5 feet in length. It weighs up to 44 pounds. It is fast, it is territorial, and it exists in waterways that are shared by researchers, by local communities, and by any living thing that enters the water in its range. The most unsettling aspect of this discovery was not the voltage itself. It was what the discovery implied. If a species this large, this electrically capable, and this biologically distinct had gone unrecognized in a region that has been studied for over a century, the question that followed was unavoidable. What else is in that water that science has not yet found? Number 3. The fish with half-foot fangs. There are apex predators in every ecosystem on Earth. Animals that sit at the top of the food chain because nothing else in their environment has developed the tools to threaten them. In the blackwater rivers of the Amazon basin, one of those animals is called the piara, known informally as the vampire fish, though the name undersells it. The piara reaches up to 3 feet in length and can weigh 20 pounds. It moves through water with the speed and directional precision of a predator that has spent millions of years optimizing for pursuit. But the feature that most distinguishes it from the other apex hunters of the Amazon is structural. Its lower jaw carries 2 hollow fangs. Each one can reach 6 inches in length, half a foot of solid bone, curved slightly backward, designed not for display, not for defense, but for one purpose: penetration. The piara does not wait for prey to come to it. It hunts actively, aggressively, at high speed through dark water where visibility is minimal. The fangs drive through the body of prey fish with a force that researchers studying high-speed footage have described as unlike anything observed in comparable freshwater predators. What makes this discovery particularly significant is not the animal itself. It is the ecosystem that produced it. The Amazon River and its tributaries are not simply a body of water. They are the most biodiverse freshwater system on Earth, and every apex predator within that system, every animal that has risen to the top of its food chain, did so by becoming more efficient, more aggressive, and more precisely lethal than everything around it. The piara is not an exception. It is an example of what this water produces when given enough time and enough pressure, and it is not, by any measure, the most dangerous thing in it. Number 2. The constrictor with no natural enemy. The final discoveries are not easy ones. The green anaconda does not chase its prey. It does not need to. It is the heaviest snake on Earth, reaching lengths of 30 feet and weights of 550 pounds. It moves through water with a silence and a speed that its body mass should not permit. On land, it waits. The hunting method of this animal is the reason it has survived, functionally unchanged in its essential design. For millions of years, it does not use venom. It does not need to. It locates prey, closes the distance, and coils. The coils tighten, not in a single crushing motion, but in a progressive rhythmic compression synchronized with the exhalation of the prey animal. Each breath out is followed by a tightening. The prey cannot draw the next breath in. The animal's diet has been documented to include deer, tapir, capybara, caimans, dogs, sheep, and animals significantly larger than most of those categories. The jaw structure is designed for extreme distension, allowing the animal to consume prey that appears, by any reasonable estimate, too large to be possible. Attacks on humans are rare. They are not unheard of. What concerns researchers in the context of the broader Amazon is not the behavior of individual animals. It is the mastery of concealment. The green anaconda in water is essentially invisible. In the vegetation at the water's edge, it is invisible again. In the flooded forest sections during the rainy season, when the waterline rises into the undergrowth and the boundaries between river and land dissolve, it moves through an environment that is entirely its own. There are regions of the Amazon where the seasonal flood covers areas larger than some European countries, where the water rises into the canopy, where the distinction between what is above and what is below the surface becomes meaningless. In those regions, during those months, the anaconda is the dominant organism, not one of them. The dominant one. What science has not yet determined is the full extent of the population. The larger specimens, that have been reliably measured. Whether the upper limit of this animal's size has genuinely been reached, or whether deeper in the uncharted interior of the basin, where no survey team has ever conducted a population study, there are animals that exceed what the records currently show. The question has been asked. It has not been answered. Number 1. The sting that leaves nothing untouched. Everything described in this documentary has been, in its own way, a form of extreme adaptation, a species pushed by the pressures of the Amazon basin to become more lethal, more efficient, or more difficult to avoid than anything that shares its environment. Number 1 is different. The bullet ant is small, between 3/4 of an inch and just over an inch in length. It lives in the humid lowland rainforest, in colonies built at the base of trees. It is not venomous in the sense of delivering a toxin that shuts down organ function. It does not paralyze. It does not consume from the inside. It does not constrict. What it delivers is pain. The Schmidt Pain Index is a scientific scale developed to measure and compare the sting pain of insects. It runs from 1 to 4. The bullet ant occupies the only entry at level 4, the only living insect on Earth whose sting registers at the maximum point of the scale, the only entry accompanied, in the original research notes, by descriptive language that reads less like science and more like testimony. Pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking across a bed of flaming charcoal with 3-inch nails, driven through the heels, lasting up to 24 hours, accompanied by fever, trembling, nausea, and cardiac arrhythmia. Not fatal. The researchers are consistent on that point. It will not kill a healthy adult human being. It will only, for a full day and night, make the person experiencing it wish that it would. What makes this discovery the final entry in this list is not the biology. It is what the biology reveals about the Amazon itself. Because this is not a rare animal. This is not a species found in one river, in one remote location, accessible only to a scientific expedition with specialized equipment. The bullet ant is one of the most widely distributed insects in the Amazon basin. It lives in the leaf litter at the base of trees, in the undergrowth alongside every trail, every research station, every piece of ground that human beings have ever walked on in this forest. It has been there the entire time, and it is one of thousands of species in this ecosystem that science has catalogued, studied, and assessed. Which means the question that this documentary has been building toward is not about any individual creature, not about the whale in the jungle, or the river that boils, or the snake that has no natural enemy. The question is about the forest itself, about what it means that a single ecosystem, covering an area that human beings have explored for centuries, and still contains species that were unknown to science last year, still contain waterways that have not been mapped, still contain interior regions where no population survey has ever been completed, where the animals that have been found represent, by most estimates, a fraction of what is actually there. The Amazon is not simply a dangerous place. It is an unfinished one. Every expedition that has gone in has come back with data that raises more questions than it answers. Every cataloging effort reveals new species faster than the existing ones can be fully understood. Every discovery of what lives in this forest is followed, almost immediately, by the realization that what has been found is not the whole picture. It never has been. The discoveries in this documentary are real. The animals are alive, in a forest that covers more ground than most human minds can genuinely comprehend, operating according to rules that science is still in the process of learning. What has been found so far has been difficult enough. What remains hidden in the deeper interior, in the uncharted waterways, in the species that have not yet been encountered, may require a different kind of language to describe. We are still waiting for the expedition that finds it. And if you want to be there when it does, the next discovery goes even deeper.